Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. Take a trip into the macabre world of goth modeling in the new millennium in this spooktacular Spinsterella story. Pick up your copy of Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. I never thought it was possible for a movie to surpass the anti-black racism and anti-black misandry presented in The Color Purple until I went on Tubi a few months ago and watched the movie Good Luck, Miss Wyckoff. Now, Good Luck, Miss Wyckoff was a movie made in 1979, directed by Marvin J. Chomsky and written from a screenplay by Polly Platt, from a 1970 novel by William Inge, an Oscar-winning writer. Now, William Inge wrote this novel about this town of Freedom, Kansas, where this woman, Miss Wyckoff, basically loses her job because of an alleged affair with the school's black janitor. And as I watched this movie, it just basically made me shake my head because I never thought I would ever see a movie that would actually surpass the anti-black racism and anti-black man misandry that I saw in The Color Purple, which I consider to be one of the worst movies depicting black men in my lifetime. Now, The Color Purple, which was written by Alice Walker, a black woman married to a white man of a certain religion, basically was this story of Celie and talked about how she was abused by black men who basically just abused her all throughout her life, and this basically led to her having a different type of relationship with one of Mister's lovers. And again, every image of black men was basically, again, designed not to go out here and present an image that was balanced as related to black men, but to pander to many white intellectuals and give them the racist images of black people they wanted to see, so that Alice Walker could go out here and get critical acclaim from academia and get the rewards from white supremacy, such as a National Book Award and a movie deal from director Steven Spielberg, which gave us that 1985 or 86 film that basically just makes me sick to my stomach until I wound up watching Good Luck, Miss Wyckoff, a film that basically the studios had buried for years because, one, it was just a completely racist, and two, because it was just an absolute box office failure coming out in 1979 as we were at the height of the Black Power movement, I believe, and with us in an era where black people were again taking our power over our images. This story, set in the 1950s, basically failed to resonate with audiences. And it failed to resonate with audiences because this entire story was absolutely and completely ridiculous from first frame to last. And the story of Evelyn Wyckoff, a lonely 35-year-old white female Latin teacher who is starting to lose satisfaction in her work, even though she's well liked by her colleagues and is still a virgin on the verge of premature menopause, just can't seem to find a man to have a relationship with. Now, this whole part of the story is supposed to be about making a commentary on spinsterhood, and when I looked at that part of the story, it just basically made me, again, shake my head, because you're telling me that a white woman who is well liked by her students and colleagues, a white woman who basically is considered to be really friendly, has a hard time being able to find relationships with men. And I have to call BS on that. I have to call BS on that because when it comes to white females, again, they have no problem getting suitors when they're young, and usually they have friends who want to hook them up. But if a chick is single, she's single for a reason, and they want to make it look like, oh, she's being frustrated because she's single out here. But the reasons why she's single out here are shown in the movie, but not really highlighted on, because they want to make the white woman appear to be sweet and innocent. And the thing that basically led to this woman, Evelyn Wyckoff, being single is the fact that she possibly has some sort of mental health issue, because she has several episodes that they try to say are connected to sexual frustration, but it's looking to me like she possibly could either be bipolar or basically schizophrenic, and these could be the actual reasons this woman was one of these women who remained single. Because again, when it comes down to quality women, again, quality women have no problem finding a man, and have no problem finding a man. But this story continues to go on, and goes on with her going to a doctor who tells her she's got premature menopause, and also tells her that maybe her problems would be solved if she would be able to begin a romantic relationship. But again, she's having these mental health episodes, which show me that this woman, again, isn't ready for a relationship, if this is the case, according to the way this story is written. And they're telling her to go see a psychiatrist, and as she goes to see the psychiatrist then tells her that she's looking for love. And as this woman is looking for love, I'm sitting there asking the question, why don't the white men in her community want to deal with her? I mean, if there's an attractive woman, usually those guys are basically checking for a female in their own community. But if guys are not checking for a female, there's a real, possibly a serious problem with that woman. Again, a serious problem as related to possibly her mental health, or a problem with her having some sort of issue. But the writer doesn't focus on any of these components, because what they want to do is push their anti-black narrative, but don't want to take a critical look at this white woman. And because they don't want to take a critical look at this white woman, she's sitting here and presenting herself looking to get into an affair with a bus driver on the way to Wichita. And again, as she's looking to get with this guy, the bus driver who's already married and already has children, the whole thing is that she wants to try to think about having an affair with this guy, but then she hesitates because this guy is married, and then eventually the guy winds up leaving the town for good because he's already got a lot of side pieces. And this whole point is to try to say that this woman, again, couldn't even make a side piece relationship work, and basically had me thinking about something the late Kevin Samuels talked about leftover women in society, because a lot of societies do have leftover women, and again, those leftover women eventually wind up becoming mistresses of married men, or they wind up in side piece relationships. And this woman, Evelyn Wyckoff, again at 35 years old, basically is one of these leftover white females. And this whole story of this leftover white female basically is looking to have some sort of plot twist to try to make it interesting, trying to make it interesting to make it her more sympathetic. So they bring in a black guy who's basically a college scholarship student who cleans classrooms at the end of the day, this black guy, Rafe Collins, and they go out here and say that this black man basically is an antisocial individual who looks to make an advance on this 35-year-old white woman. And this guy, again, who's going to college, has a college scholarship. In 1950s Jim Crow America, they want to say makes an advance on a white woman. And that's where I gotta call BS on this entire story. Gotta call BS on this story, and call BS on this story because in Jim Crow America, no black man was looking to make advances on no white woman, because we all know what would happen to that black man and what would happen to all the other black men in that community. Again, this would lead to that black man either winding up at the best part being arrested and locked up in jail, or at the worst case scenario being lynched and having his private parts cut off and made into a souvenir. I mean, no black man in American history was going out here looking to grab up on no white woman in any part of history. But this writer basically wants to try to make this a plot point of their story, again to cover the innocence of this white woman, again to make it look like this white woman is so innocent. And as the story goes along, eventually, basically after that advance, basically what they show is this black man approaching her again and again, graping this white woman, again graping this white woman again. And then after this happens, this white woman basically says nothing. And then after she says nothing about this black man violating her, which we know would not be true, even if this woman was so liberal and looking to help Negroes, she would still report that crime. Again, that just, and as the story goes on, they want to say this guy is a psychopath and a sadist who, again, continues to violate this woman, and this woman basically is then so caught up in being violated that she basically starts to enjoy being violated. And again, this whole thing basically turns into a scandal when everything gets revealed, when she's caught getting some of that hot chocolate from this guy. Again, this whole story basically presents black men as brutes and sexual deviants, and basically is out of the whole realm of reality, because most black men who had college scholarships back in the 1950s basically walked a tightrope because they didn't want the heat from these racists. And with them being guys who had college scholarships, again, a young black guy with a college scholarship could either go out here and deal with the young black females, or go out here and deal with even some of the young Beckys on the side. Even though Jim Crow was going on, some of the Beckys were looking for a taste of the chocolate, and they wouldn't be interested in dealing with no 35-year-old leftover woman. No, what this writer wanted to do, William Inge, was go out here and create a story that fit his racist ideals about black men. And as he wanted to present that story about his ideals about black men, he wanted to put in some of his disturbing sexual fetishes about what racists believe black men would participate in if they saw a white woman. But any guy who has everything going for him would basically just look past a 35-year-old white female, especially one that none of the white men were checking for, and be looking to go out here and look at younger women. And that's where this story basically gets, again, to so ridiculous. And again, what they want to say is that the town was filled with racist people, but they don't want to, but the writer himself doesn't want to look at his racism, and he wants us to say that this woman was forced to leave her Kansas town because of the so-called affair that went on, which was really sexual abuse, and that they want to say that, oh, she had to leave town because they kicked her out of town, because what they do is basically take her job from her, and then she's living in a rooming house, because again, single women back then lived in rooming houses, and basically tell her to go get a job in another town in New Jersey and turn a cold shoulder on her. And she basically just decides to leave town because she was out here again having this so-called affair, which really wasn't an affair. It was just a sick, twisted fetish that the writer was participating in trying to present this story, which to some people, which in that time again was considered to be a bestseller when this book was published. And this whole story, as it was run, just basically made me sick to my stomach, because this story of looks to again make the black man into a sexual predator, makes the black man into a sexual deviant. And again, this was before The Color Purple. And what's even worse is, again, none of this made any logical sense, just like The Color Purple didn't make any logical sense with black men during the time of Jim Crow, and just shows me how Hollywood basically only sees black men as a walking, talking penis who can't control itself. And when I watched this movie, again, it was so disturbing, because it just, again, showed the worst about black men. Again, the worst about black men. as related to this woman, who again would be considered in Asian societies and many other societies to be a leftover woman, a woman many men would basically pay no attention to. But what they want to say in their commentary is that the black man will basically go out here and take the white man's leftovers and basically think that having the white man's leftovers is better than being with black people and being with a black woman. That's what they really wanted to say here with this movie, Good Luck, Miss Wyckoff, and that if this white woman goes out here and he would rather have any options, she has the only they don't really want to say that that she was basically going for the black man. Again, they want to go out here. Again, a more organic story would have been to say that she pursued relationships with black men because white men were not checking for her, but they didn't. This writer didn't want to do that. No, they wanted to go out here and create the most salacious story, as related to interracial relationships, and wanted to go out here and again push narratives that have been presented since the antebellum South about interracial relationships. And this whole story, again, if this writer really wanted to again have an objective look at people, could have talked about again many different things about why this woman was a spinster. I mean, going in depth on this woman's mental health, could have talked about that aspect as related to things, because she was having episodes of crying and other things in the movie. Again, if you're a well-liked person and you've got a social life, again, and the guys aren't checking for you, there's a reason for that. But this writer didn't want to go out here and look at those reasons to make a more deeper story, nor did they want to go out here and make any accountability for this white female. No, didn't want this woman to be accountable for any of her behavior, and that's what makes this story fall completely apart. And doesn't want to talk about how this woman basically was in this position where none of the white men wanted her. Again, don't talk about any of those white men and how the white men in the town weren't interested in her, or why they weren't interested in her. Don't even talk about her dating any of those white men. No, she's lonely and wants a relationship, but doesn't. But again, when it comes down to white people, again, if you've got a good social circle, again, there's going to be white men in those social circles. But this guy doesn't write that because he wants to make it look more salacious when she has the relationship with the black man. And again, doesn't want to present the black man as somebody that she would look to pursue, but wants to make the black man into a deviant. Again, a young black man who's, again, going to college on a scholarship, knows that he's walking on eggshells. Again, shows how this writer didn't do their research on Jim Crow or racism. And again, as someone who did do his research, again, that guy would be walking on eggshells. And if he wanted, again, interracial sex, he could go out here and deal with any of the college students on campus, and again, deal with them on campus. But this story, again, just is one of the most racist things I have seen ever since The Color Purple. And again, I never thought in my life I would ever see a movie worse than The Color Purple as related to presenting black men. But with Good Luck, Miss Wyckoff, here we are. And there's a reason why this movie was buried for many years. I mean, most people didn't even know this movie existed until Tubi came along. And maybe Tubi shouldn't be showing these type of movies, and maybe they should leave this type of stuff to be continuing to be buried, because this type of content basically shows how little has changed as related to the media's depiction of black men, and how even in the Black Power period and the Blaxploitation period, they were still making movies, again, presenting the worst image of black people and presenting the worst images of black people in American media. Now, if you want to see some positive images of foundational black Americans, you can pick up many of my books on the SJS Direct imprint, many of my books that present more balanced, humanized images of black people and show you richer pictures of black life. You can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me be able to take movies to the barbecue, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this action-packed all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Now available in paperback and e-readers, The Temptation of John Haynes. Give in to temptation and pick up this action-packed African-American paranormal romance. Get The Temptation of John Haynes in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed, all-new Esteemed series adventure. Pick up your copy of Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.